Awesome. Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Networks. I'm Gregor Sprague.
And I'm Corey something with a Scott, I think.
Yeah. For all info on this show notes, for all info on this show, including show notes and subscription links, go to ElseNerds.com. And for other Galactic Network programs, go to gncast.com.
On ElseNerds, we say some stuff. It could be offensive to you if you're of a weak constitution, but that's okay. It's not like we're judging you. We're just letting you know ahead of time. Safe place, and we're gonna swear. We're gonna swear, and we're gonna spoil things. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you're the latest guest on a horror themed podcast and picked probably the least scary movie out there.
I don't even believe Horror Theme podcast exists.
Yeah. So, Corey, how you been? It seems like it's been a whole 24 hours since I've seen you.
Close to that. I think it was daylight when we recorded pot yesterday, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit past that, and it's chilly. It's a crisp 20 something degrees here in California, which I know ain't Michigan weather, but this ain't Michigan, so what the
What the?
fuck?
Yeah. What the fuck is it? Does it usually get down to 20?
No, it's been extremely cold. If you look at a map of the weather across the United States right now, it seems like it's super wintry everywhere except Florida. Florida, being the fucking insane land that it is like 80 degrees. When I was mentioning that I had to turn up my heat to between 67 and 69 degrees, a friend of mine's like, "Yeah, I would have to turn on my air conditioner." Like, dude, rock.
Yeah, it's sort of like Jack Frost is just teabagging us right now.
Tasty balls. Festive in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But no, so yeah, I mean, things are going great. You know, I did the show. I did Edward Scissorhands. You should see that on the 20th of December. Um, in all the audio podcast feeds and stuff where we talked about Edward Scissorhands, and I apologize profusely over picking a not scary movie for us for a scary movie podcast.
we've gone the gamut
Yeah.
of scary to not scary. We've gone the gamut of horror and not quite horror, and that's okay. Little hint though, listeners, if you are listening and if you catch it in time, there's a contest on this week's pot. If you get in right away, you might get a giveaway for a really cool beta for a video game.
Oh yeah, I
So
watched the video Matt shared afterwards. So cool.
it is pretty cool.
But
So
it's one of those that like I have that slightly weak constitution where I would start to get paranoid while playing that game. I'd be like, "Where the fuck?" It's just because I get
we're
like that.
obviously talking about Crash Bandicoot, but
Yes. No, it's what Friday the 13th. The open beta is this weekend
this
for it,
week, yeah.
or this week, and I was watching the gameplay footage and I get paranoid. Well, not paranoid. Paranoid is not the correct word, but it is in a way. While playing a Minecraft game mode called hide and seek, where it's basically the same thing except for you are various Minecraft blocks, and if you move around, it looks like you're a potted plant moving around or a giant bookshelf hopping around and stuff like that. And then you have the other people who are hunters and they're just going around punching, and it's like you're sitting there, you're like, shit, don't see me, don't see me, don't hit this block, don't hit this block, don't hit this block, while they're going around just hitting everything. It's like that would be me. I would just find a bed, hide underneath there until the dude came up and was like, Greg, are you really hiding under the bed? I'm not here.
I'm always hiding under the bed. Yeah, and it looks cool. I don't know as far as the gameplay, because it's not just tense in a horror kind of field sort of tense, but it's also tense because you've got, if you're not the killer, then you've got a team of people who are relying on you. And so it's kind of like it's bad enough when you're on a group on WoW and you don't get the heals right. This is almost a little bit worse because it's like everybody dead.
Yeah.
It might be something that I would enjoy watching people play on Twitch.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, so that's mainly it. Christmas is coming up, so we'll be talking more about that later on. But let's start off with the news with the Else News for this week. And the first one, I think I picked all three of the stories, but I didn't see any objections for this. But Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi confirms the Planet Hulk location. So Planet Hulk, I'm going to say this right off the bat. This looks like this is the closest we are ever going to get to Hulk solo films. Is taking Hulk storylines and interweaving them in with other Marvel characters.
Yeah,
Because
because Universal owns the rights for distribution for Hulk films primarily, and while it's okay to use Hulk in these other movies and Avengers and so forth, the idea of Marvel putting a Hulk movie out, plus honestly, the Hulk movies haven't had huge successes in the couple that have come out, although one of them is just whack anyway.
yeah,
It makes a certain degree of sense. Plus, we're at a point where these characters, we wonder why they're not with each other at times. When Iron Man 3 came out after the first Avengers movie, it's like, well, why aren't we seeing Cap and the other characters show up for this? And when Cap's running around fighting things like the Winter Soldier, it's like, well, why aren't you calling on some of your other friends who could be involved in this at this point in time? And it's not too much of a stretch because it's the same way it is in the comics. It's like you're not going to get everybody together all at the same time, or they might be having their own missions. But right now, yeah, let's involve Hulk in a Thor story because it's going to up the potential of a Thor movie, anyways. Because there's another one that's not like the top of the heap when it comes to how these films perform. Although I've enjoyed both Thor movies, this one sounds more exciting, and it's kind of hard to picture how we do Planet Hulk otherwise.
yeah. So to give a little bit of background, this year's Comic-Con, they had Marvel unveiled props from Thor Ragnarok. And one of them was the Gladiator Hulk armor pieces. At least confirming that a portion of the storyline would be an infusion of Planet Hulk. And now Taika Waititi talking said in the latest issue of Total Film that is it Sakaar? Is that how you say the planet name?
I'm not hugely familiar with the storyline, but that sounds right to me.
Yeah, Sakaar. Well, I do know the storyline was written by Greg Pak. It was his first comic book writing project was Planet Hulk.
Hmm.
But the but it will be featured is in the film. Sakaar was just an insane, far off, futuristic place, which was the biggest shift for the films and these characters. This is all Taika Waititi, a quote from him. I was really excited when Kevin Feige and the rest of Marvel jumped on board with the idea to use Jack Kirby as a big influence in the design of the film. What's really hard is staying authentic. And
yeah, and something to keep in mind is that what this does is it gives us an otherworldly thing that we haven't already seen, and Thor's been doing that more because all of his stuff does take place off planet. So with the first Thor film, we got to see Asgard in relation to Earth, and the second film we got to see the planet where the Dark Elves are from, but it was just dark, man. It was just dark desert like place. It wasn't terribly exciting. So this gives us something that maybe is a little bit more upping the game and introduces us to a lot of other characters. Like one of the questions it's got to be, how did Hulk get off planet and why is he on this other world and why is he competing as a gladiator here? Spelling that out is going to be a lot of the fun of the film.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, and I don't know anything of the story. I can only guess, but if you look at how Planet Hulk went, Hulk finds himself on Sakaar when it was ruled by a corrupt empire led by the Red King, whose forces subsequently captured Hulk and made him into a gladiator for the Imperial armies. And this happened because SHIELD had a plan to shoot Hulk off into space to a lush, uninhabited planet, but his ship got sucked into a wormhole. And if you remember
Yeah,
the
it
last
wasn't.
time remember last time we saw the Hulk on in a Marvel movie, he was flying a plane, heading off into the sunset. All we need is just thwomp, wormhole, and
Now,
it to be
let's be honest though, because one of the things that's very different is that in that scene, Hulk was going into self exile. In the original storyline that led to Planet Hulk, Hulk had been kicked off the planet not by Shield, but by the Illuminati, by
yes,
his friends, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Black Bolt. I think was part of the group. Namor. So
yeah,
it was a bunch of people that were like,
Professor
"Hey,
Xavier.
we can't trust you here anymore. We have to send you off world. We have to get you out of here." And they tried to send him to a good place. And all these really smart people in the room done fucked up because they didn't keep track of him. And then he came back really pissed off. So this would be a little bit different from Planet Hulk, where it leads to World War Hulk later. But it's also it's making storylines for Thor. Thor Ragnarok is another Marvel storyline that if you're using the name, I have to assume they're going to use some sort of elements from the original story. Although Marvel likes to change things up a lot when they take the storylines and bring them to the films.
Yeah. The other part I will add to where I think how we're going to get it is with the additional casting that we have here. So you have Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master, who is the brother to the Collector, and is known for doing the being involved in the Contest of Champions.
Yeah.
So I could see that being how we get Hulk on Sakaar and all that. And we got Kate Blanchett as Hela, Carl Urban as Scourge, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. All these being joined by Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, and Idris Elba. And also, if you watched Doctor Strange, maybe we get a little bit of Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, get all the Cumberbitches and what are the Tom Hiddleston ones? The Tom Hiddleston fans swooning over the same movie. We get a new Team Jacob, Team Edward thing here, but it's for the actors.
I mean, there's no short of pretty in the Marvel films. There's a lot of nice things to look at in those. A lot of man meat is what I'm saying. A lot of pretty men. Few named Chris. Uh,
Yeah.
just varies out. So it should be with the additions of both cast and characters and everything else kind of involved in this. It sounds like a very exciting film. It sounds like the first Thor film where I'm like just hearing about it, I'm really into the idea of it. Whereas the other Thor films, it's like, well, let's see what they do with this. This is like shit. I'm way on board for it. So it should be pretty great. And this is coming out this year?
This comes out November 3rd, 2017.
Yep. So that's great. This coming year
Yes.
is what I meant.
Yeah.
I'm ready for 2016 to be done, man.
Yeah. Fuck you, 2016. And our next story is Chris Meloni will star in the Syfy pilot Happy. Chris Meloni, you might know him from the Law and Order SVU, and oh gosh, he was in a whole bunch. He was in some other things that I cannot think of right now.
He was Freak Show in Harold and Kumar. He was the best part of Harold and Kumar, and an excellent movie overall. But Freak Show was probably my favorite part of that, and that's realizing that Neil Patrick Harris had a big resurgence because of that movie.
Yeah. But he is set to star as the male lead in the Syfy pilot Happy, which is based on Grant Morrison and Derek Robertson's graphic novel. And I read the premise of this, and basically Meloni will play a character named Nick Sachs, once a rock star detective for a major metropolitan police force. Nick loses it all. Now he's a broken, down and out hired killer who makes just enough money to support a steady diet of booze, drugs, and sarcasm while carrying out hits for the mob. And after one of these hits goes wrong, his life is forever changed. by a tiny, relentlessly positive, imaginary blue-winged horse. Meloni will also executive produce the pilot, along with Morrison and Brian Taylor, who worked on Crank and Gamer. He will write and executive produce. Morrison will, and Taylor will also direct. So this is pretty cool to
Yeah,
see.
did you get to read the miniseries at all?
I didn't.
It's
But
a fun. I mean, it was a 4-issue series from Image. It came out a couple years ago. It's a Christmas story because the guy is going around dressed up as Santa Claus and talking to this, what we all assume is a hallucination in his brain of this little blue winged horse that's trying to lead him around, trying to rescue this little girl. It's fantastic. And now, so this is Grant Morrison, who we know is very good at the weird and was kind of breaking away, doing something that was creator owned through Image with Derek Robertson, which I know you probably can't see it, but right behind me back there is a piece of original art that I had done by Derek a few years ago of Kitty Pryde and Dick Grayson, because they're my favorite characters. Excellent artist, great guy, really fun guy, has done some incredible comics, has worked on Transmetropolitan, which is a stellar series, and then did a bunch of work with Garth Ennis on The Boys, co-creator of that. So I mean, he's got just an amazing art style that works for the gritty realism that's still got a huge case of weird to it, that is perfect for this kind of thing. And to see their vision come out, I could not think of a better person to play the part than Chris Meloni, because Chris Meloni gets it. He can do serious things with his Law and Order stuff, definitely, but he can do weird. He can do funny. He can traverse a lot of different styles and characters, and that's exactly what this story needs.
Keep in mind, he played the cook in Wet Hot American Summer.
Yes.
Which, and here, let's just give you guys a overview on Chris Meloni's schedule. He's got the WGN show Underground, which he will direct an episode of the show's second season, which is in production. He will also be starring in or returning in the second season of Netflix's Wet Hot American Summer. And in the film world, he will star opposite Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn in the untitled mother-daughter comedy that is due in May.
I think it's actually been titled now.
Has it?
I think that's,
okay.
Yeah, I saw an actual trailer for it the other day, and it's been all over the front of IMDb, but I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah. This article was from about a month ago now, but sort of besides the point, because
Snatched.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, dude's busy, and it's great. It's great that these really good actors are keeping themselves busy doing things that I'm pretty sure he loves. He probably loved the book Happy, or at least when he got the script, he dove into the material and he's like, all right, sign me up. All right, our next story is one that it sounds almost like I should be telling you this on April 1st. The How I Met Your Mother spinoff is in development from the This Is Us writers. This is another potential spinoff for How I Met Your Mother. It is in development at 20th TV from the This Is Us writers, Isaac Aptiker and Elizabeth Berger. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. The ensemble show is told from the female point of view, in contrast to the original CBS series that ran for nine seasons. This will take the How I Met Your Father is a new take on it with an entirely new set of characters and writers. It's similar in vein to the original. The original series creators Carter Bays and Craig Thomas would serve as executive producers on the project, but it would be I would almost say it'd be more consulting producers as opposed to having a lot of say, just because of their overall, they have a deal with Sony Studios, which prevents them from working working fully on this show.
Right. Well, also, let's keep in mind, Bays and Thomas tried to do the follow-up to How I Met Your Mother with How I Met Your Dad just after the original series ended. It had Meg Ryan was doing the voiceover stuff, doing the Bob Saget kind of part, and Greta Gerwig was playing the wife who was going to eventually meet the dad, and that thing got shot to pilot and didn't get picked up. And it was very surprising because How I Met Your Mother was a huge hit for CBS. As much as I will never want to really sit through that show again because it just hit the bullshit button about halfway and just kept spiking me in the fucking face with it. But that's kind of the thing. So part of me is, who the fuck wants to see this now? Who the fuck is sitting there saying, oh, what we really need to do is bring back the polar opposite of How I Met Your Mother? On the other hand, it's at least different creators doing their take on it. And I've got to say, I loved How I Met Your Mother for a while, for a good long while. And then I tolerated it for a while. And then I just got to the point where this is bullshit. And I remember saying that on one of the old incarnations of this show. And I'm just going, I'm fucking out. And Glenn Rubenstein, who you should not tell, is like, but don't you want to just see it finish out? Like, they've only got 2 seasons left. Can't you just stick it around to then? I'm like, no, fuck them, fuck the show, fuck the whole party. Just threw down my fucking pen and I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. And it's just like, I have no love for this concept anymore because they kind of killed it for me. And I wonder why they're still trying so hard to bring this concept around again. And it's just every time I talk about this, I feel like I'm on a repeat record, but I have to stand with it, is that there's just a serious lack of feeling of, we have to find new ideas in Hollywood. It's just, let's recycle this as quick as we can. We've got people's attention. Let's just bust it out and fucking, here's something that's familiar. Let's keep digging around with it because people might watch because they have an expectation. And I find that so dull. So when we're getting a show like Happy, which is based off of a new creation, which is based off of new creators who are doing original things, I'm ecstatic for stuff like that. And then I see this shit where it's like, we had the sitcom that lasted way too long and felt long in the tooth because it was forced, because it just had to keep continuing because we got to keep cashing checks, motherfuckers. And now it's like, let's try the same formula again. That really pisses me off.
I could see this working in a way. Now, will it last? Could it last as long as How I Met Your Mother did? Possibly, but I could see this working in a special way, and that being the in what How I Met Your Mother did, where it was a well-balanced cast of, you had 2 well-known actors in Neil Patrick Harris and Allison Hannigan. You had Jason Segel, who if you'd watched Freaks and Geeks, you knew him, but more than likely you didn't really know him. And then you had the virtually unknowns in Josh Radnor and Colby Smulders. And this show launched their career, so I could see them doing the same thing.
Absolutely terrific casting. Absolutely terrific chemistry between them. You know, I don't have a problem with the cast. I have a problem with the idea of the concept of this whole build-up bullshit of, like, you know, we're gonna just string you along as long as they'll keep renewing us to when we finally decide to tell you who the dad is. Now, maybe they don't do it this way, but I don't even want to go on that journey again. It's one thing to say we're going to have a spinoff of the show, or we're going to have something that's a spiritual successor to a show. But you know what? when fucking they did Frasier after Cheers, they didn't have Frasier sitting in a bar all the fucking time talking to a bunch of people, you know, chanting around a fucking failed baseball player again. They did something different with the character. You can spin off characters, you can spin off ideas, but just to do the same thing over again and just change the gender, you know who does that? The fucker who wrote Twilight. The fucker who wrote Twilight said, hey, I'm going to do the same book over again, but I'm going to change the genders of it. You know what? Fuck that bitch. Fuck anybody who does that, because that's not exciting. That's not interesting. You know, it's just the same shit again, and I don't fucking want it. I think you can do better. I think you should do better. And I feel kind of bad for the people who are doing a very original show, and This Is Us, saying, okay, now this is our next project. It's a dumb project.
Yeah.
Or it could be great, because I'm full of shit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I do like the idea of telling it from not the same story, because we don't need to see slap bet. We don't need to see, you know, sandcastles in the sand or stuff like that, because it hasn't been long enough to reach nostalgia factor. I mean, the show ended 2 years ago, for crying out loud. So I mean, it's not, you know, like Full House, or, you know, like The Honeymooners doing, you know, a sitcom, like redoing a sitcom like that. But I do think that there's some stories that they could tell from the female perspective in here that would be, you know, more interesting.
I love the idea of a female-led show that follows some similar themes and stuff. But again, you're just trying to bank on the idea of it. People like that show, so let's do that show again. And that's a shitty way to do television. You know what? The guy who created a lot of incredible shows in the 70s and 80s, they're talking about relaunching All in the Family and The Jeffersons and those shows, and they're talking about redoing them with new cast working from the same scripts. Who the fuck wants that?
Yeah.
You know, who the fuck wants to be in that? Oh yeah, I want to go on and try to play Archie Bunker after the guy who made that fucking show and is an amazing actor. I'm going to go on and just try to emulate him. You know, they did a show called The Rerun Show in the early aughts, and it was like, hey, we're going to do Different Strokes scripts, and we're going to do Facts of Life scripts, and we're going to do all these things and stuff like that. And they did it as a really raunchy, filthy spoof, but they worked from the original scripts. That's the only way that is mildly interesting. But to just sit there and just keep hammering down on the same thing over and over again and being too chicken shit to come up with a new concept and bring new things to television, it's a new fucking world. It's a very different world to steal from another spin-off show that wasn't the same as the original. Also lacked a rapist. But it's just a very different fucking place right now. It seems like that would be inspiring. We would get new shit. That's why we get shows like Mr. Robot. That's why we get shit that actually makes us think and go outside of what we already have. On the other hand, one of my favorite shows, or two of my favorite shows of last year, have been remakes or spin-offs of other things. So, like I said, I'm a fucking asshole. You know, just shove it right up my ass, TV. Just take me like you fucking owe me, and like you just shoved a Jell-O pop in my mouth, because I'm a little bitch in your arms.
Yeah, and you could say in a way that This Is Us is basically the Parenthood replacement. I mean, that argument could be said where you're following around one family. Granted, Parenthood, it was like, you know, this year, you know, 1 year, not going back to when the dad was still alive and then forward to the kids at, you know, the age of like, you know, 35, 40, however old, you know, the kids are now, sort of deal. But you know, you could make that comparison.
Yeah, This Is Us is a generational show that takes place at different time points. I think that's new. That's interesting. And they didn't call it Parenthood, This Is Us, / fuck you watch it, you stupid chimps. They could have. Right. But but they didn't. They actually put their money where their fucking mouth is and said,
Yeah.
here's a show that we made and we hope that you think it's as good as we have tried to make for you. And that's why people like it, I think.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I'm one of them peoples. All right. Well, that is it for the news. And we will be right back. And we are back, and it is time for Nerding Out. This is the section of the show where we talk about the things that we've been nerding out over. And I'm gonna go first because mine is a twofer slash threefer because I got a new phone. I got the Samsung Galaxy S7. Has not blown up yet, so haha, everyone can quit making those jokes. But with it, I sold two other ones to my friends from church, and there's a promotion going on where you buy a Samsung product, so the S7 or S7 Edge, you get one of these for free. The Samsung Galaxy or the Samsung Gear VR powered by Oculus, and magically it became Monday. Is sort of how things went. Because it seems like every chance I had, I was putting my phone in here and being transported into other worlds and exploring all these other things. And yeah, it's cool. I freaking love this thing. It's so cool. And I on Sunday at church I became a salesperson for Samsung without getting paid because I think I sold like 7 of them to people. But yeah, and so the coolness doesn't end there because I found an app that's in the Oculus store that is also on Steam, and we will have a link to the Steam store, and it is called Annie Amber. Now, this is a game in a similar vein to Flower, the PlayStation 3 game, where there's no dialogue, there's just music, and the only words you actually see are Annie Amber when you start. And this game is so well done, um in that it's a puzzle where you're just going around, you're doing full 360 degrees. I highly recommend you sit down for this game, and you are just sitting there looking around these beautifully created worlds, um and you are slowly learning about this Annie character's life. And it's just so well done. And it's one of these it's one of these games that talking about it doesn't quite do it justice. Handing it over to people does it better justice than this, because it's one of those, like, I was trying to find games, for to show the kids. I end up settling on a different app that it's Google Street View, except you look around in it. You're actually looking around in Street View, and I'm like, and so I was like, hey, okay, guys, guess where we're at? And I put in our hometown, and they're like, wait, where are we? And I'm like, really? That's here, dude. Like, that's like a mile down the road, like 2 miles down the road. How do you not know that? And all that. But Annie Amber is one of those games that you could put on. If you have the Gear VR, or the Oculus, for the computer or whatever, to do the Steam VR. It's one of those games you sit down. It's worth the $7 on Steam to play. But you just sit down for a day, or break it up over a couple days and whatnot, and you just do this incredible story, listen to wonderfully done music, and just enjoy this world that has been created for you. Um, but yeah. So Corey,
I just want to say real fast before we jump up.
yeah.
I know it's unlikely. Have you ever seen the 1983 movie Brainstorm with Christopher Walken, and it was Natalie Wood's last film?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so anytime I hear about anybody doing virtual reality stuff, Brainstorm's a little bit different. What they did is they created a mechanism that would record experiences by people, and then other people would put on the mechanism and they'd be able to replay them as if they were experiencing those things themselves. So when you say that you lost a weekend to your Samsung VR, there is a scene in Brainstorm. I'm not going to spell it out for you, but it is somebody who's basically taken. Well, yeah, I'll spell it a little bit. Someone else had sex while wearing the machine, and then another guy gets it and puts it on a loop and just sits there in his office with the loop going and just doesn't surface from the room for like days. And his wife is worried about him, and he sends in Christopher Walken's character to see, can you go see what's going on with Bob over there? Yeah, Bob's kind of like fapping it. So
Bob's a little extra sticky right now.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It did not do incredibly well, and it's certainly dated now from 1983. It must have been filmed in 81 because that's when Natalie Wood actually passed away. But
Yeah.
there's some pretty interesting stuff in there, and early Walken, which is always a fun thing to see.
Yeah.
I think it's before the Dead Zone.
But no, yeah, definitely check it out if you have the Samsung. If you have a Samsung phone, I believe it's the S6, the S6 Edge, the Note 5 and newer. So the 6 pluses, the 6 or S6 pluses, and all that. The Gear VR is compatible with those, and then any Amber, you can find them on the Oculus store in there. You can find it on the Steam store. Check out that game. It is worth it. It's a fun, immersive game. I actually showed it to my mom in the beginning because you start in this house, and then you go, and then you hear the ocean, like it's almost like an Italian villa, or like a Greek little like coastal town house thing. But you look and you know it's like you see nothing over the edge. And I should say it's a little bit on rails, but it's like you choose how the rails go. So you only go so far, and you're like, all right, I'm here. I'm hearing the ocean. I see no ocean. And then you look up to your left. This is the opening stuff. You look up to your right, sorry, and ginormous blue planet. And I'm like, holy shit. And I spent a good 5 minutes just looking around it. Just like my mom started laughing as I was walking by. I'm like, shut up, I'm playing a game. Because you look stupid just sitting there looking around, like just gazing at the wonder that these people made.
Yep.
But that's Annie Amber. And so Corey, you have a movie.
I did. I'm trying to get through a few things that I've been wanting to catch up on this year, and this one came out. Unfortunately, did not do well either when it hit the theaters. It's from Shane Black, and it's called The Nice Guys. It stars Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. And now I'm not a huge Russell Crowe fan. I can't think of much stuff that I've watched him in since Gladiator, honestly, but I like Gladiator a lot. It's just that it seems like all the stuff he kept doing was just Russell Crowe's kind of a dick. Ryan Gosling is another one. I have nothing against the guy. I just can't say that I've seen him in too many things. I watched that one thing where all the people ripped or got all the money from like crashing the housing market, and he was good in that, but he always just kind of comes across a little bit, prickish, little smarmy, little above everybody, because he's very pretty. He's a pretty man, but he's perfect for that kind of character that he plays in this. He's a detective who's not really good at detecting things. He's got a kid who kind of knows that he's full of shit. His daughter, Russell Crowe, is more of a muscle guy who goes around and he makes money by getting people to back the fuck off of other people. They pay him to kind of get in the way of people who are bugging him. And it's, if you've seen anything by Shane Black, and in particular, if you've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, or even to a certain degree, if you've seen Iron Man 3, you get an idea of what kind of movie this is. It takes place in the 70s, so it's era specific, but it feels very much like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is an excellent movie. If you've not seen it, that's Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer. This one, I was really into it, and it's kind of like familiar. So I can't say that it's as good as the other movies that have come before it, because it's just similar to the other movies before it. But I laughed my ass off through most of it. It's just that kind of shit keeps happening.
We're good.
All right. So if you've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, it's an original, and this just feels maybe a little derivative of that, but it's highly enjoyable. The characters themselves have that kind of great interaction. Gosling plays a sort of smarmy guy. He gets to be a little bit crass. He gets to be a little bit like he takes advantage of people a little too much. And Russell Crowe's character is more honest, although he's also the sort who will beat the shit out of you, but do it to your face. You know, he's not going to bullshit you about it. It's like, hey, by the way, I'm going to fucking break your arm right now, just so you know. It's not personal, but I'm doing it. And the daughter kind of keeps them both in check. She keeps Russell Crowe from getting too violent. She keeps her dad from being too much of a bullshit artist, and gives him sort of a conscience. It's very fun. It's certainly got some good sort of noirish storytelling to it. It has a good amount of violence and some sneak up violence, or characters who die that you're not expecting necessarily to die. There is a great bit with Matt Bomer, who was on White Collar on USA. Yeah. He comes into this, is a very good, interesting character. I wish this would have continued. I wish that there was success for this film, because it would be nice to see these characters come back. I don't know how likely that would be. You know, in the one and dones that Shane Black has done before, it seems okay with that. But he did do, he wrote the Lethal Weapon movies. And so you kind of understand that the character camaraderie is what he excels at. And the sort of slapsticky humor is another thing that he excels at. And if you like any of those things, this is going to work for you really well. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I would definitely put it on rotation to watch again. But it did make me nostalgic for Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which I think might be better. So just a step back from that, but not a big step.
Yeah. All right. I do have The Nice Guys on my list, which is actually a great segue. So we'll be back after this. And we're back, and this is our discussion point, or our discussion topic. And this week, our discussion topic is shows that we are catching up. We want to catch up on. Shows that we didn't get, they might have fallen off our radar. We just might not had time to TV and all that. And with the regular TV season coming to a break, we have a little bit of extra time in our days. Like I was mentioning beforehand, it's like, if you look at it just from my standpoint, I mean, I got easily 12 to 20 hours, I would say, free up from this mid-season break. And, of shows like probably about a week.
Yeah, it's basically, you've got a winter holiday. You probably have a couple of days off. You're gonna have to spend some of it with the fucking loved ones, because that's the bullshit that happens. Yeah. Here comes Santa Claus just to ram it up right your fucking ass. And so then you just like, all right, we've cooked our Christmas goose, and we've pulled all the wrapping to the recycling bin, and now I get to turn on the TV and not shower for 3 days and just build up a good stench. I'll have the cat sticking to my body and watching a lot of TV. So the question is, Gregor, what is the show that you think you're going to go to first?
Okay. probably I'd probably have to say Black Mirror. Um, just because I've still have only seen the first two episodes, but it quickly became one of these shows where I'm like, all right, it's on Netflix. I can catch it at my own pace. When I'm not, wanting to stick around with these stories that are being told, with all the superhero shows that I'm watching and stuff like that. So that's probably the big one right there is, catching up on Black Mirror. Um,
I've
and
heard
now
a
that,
lot of people talking more and more about Black Mirror. The third season came out just recently,
yep.
so a lot of people are jumping back in. But yeah, I've heard you mention it when you were first watching the show before. I'm surprised, but understand why you haven't stuck it out, because there's a lot of things to watch, and new things are always coming up that kind of grab your attention, and that's part of the problem. It's not like the show isn't good, but the show is not the priority, especially when it's on Netflix, where you can feel like it's always going to be there. If
And
it's a
it's
Netflix
Netflix
original, it's not even going to
original.
switch over to fucking Amazon or something. It's like, no, I know where I'll be able to find this. It's available to me.
Yep.
I just have other things that are on my list first.
Yeah, and I will say also on my list, it's a segue. Your nerding out, which is the Nice Guys. I mean, I have that on my, you know, as one of the things that I want to watch. I enjoyed the trailers and all the TV spots that I saw, and then you saying this, I'm like, yep, that's one I'm gonna want to watch. But what about you, Corey? What is the one show that you were wanting to catch up on first?
What's probably going to wind up first, because it's short, and I've already put it on my Plex, is a show called Hap and Leonard. And Hap and Leonard is another kind of buddy comedy that takes place out of time. I think this is in the 80s, maybe even before that. It might be 70s. And it's two guys who work kind of like out in the fields doing stuff, but they're kind of hard luck guys. Thomas Jane is one of them, and his best friend is a African American guy who has been to war and everything. He's also gay, so he's dealing with prejudices for a couple of different things. But their relationship is the primary of the show, but it also deals with Hap's ex-wife comes back into his life and tells him that there is a car that's been sunk somewhere, that somebody had stolen a bunch of money. It was lost in the vehicle. The guy was never able to find it again. He got arrested, and he told her now husband in prison kind of where he best remembered it being. And so she goes to Hap and Leonard to help them to help her recover the money. And
Yeah.
it's I think it's like a 6-episode season. So it was short, but it looks really good and really fun. And it kind of reminds me, I'd watched Terriers recently, and I'd been looking forward to that. This was kind of maybe my follow-up to Terriers. So that is probably what I'll get to first.
Nice. Um, I think another one that I'm probably gonna end up watching is one that's been out for a while, and it sort of falls under the mine. There's a little bit of a trend here if you notice this. It's Man in the High Castle. I mean, I saw the pilot, I enjoyed the pilot, but I always said that what is honestly gonna take for me to subscribe to Amazon Prime would be the Grand Tour. I'm subscribed to Amazon Prime because of the Grand Tour. Um, and it's in there. They're doing the HBO style where they play commercials beforehand of their other programming. So there's, the one that I might check out the pilot for, that Good Girls Revolt, period piece. But the other one that I've seen, I'm like, oh yeah. And that's Man in the High Castle. I'm like, I need to watch all of season one to get caught up with season two before, a lot of these people that I respect who have shouted the praises of Man in the High Castle start saying, you need to watch Man in the High Castle. um, and all that. I mean, it's one of those that I'm like, I feel like I would like it, even though I haven't read the book. But oh wait, please tell me season 2 isn't out already. Son of a bitch, I think it is. Oh man.
If I can treat my escape from reality by watching something about Nazis when it's so real world right now,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I'm trying to tune that shit out of my eyes. But I get
Oh
it,
no,
and it looks like a quality show. And I've heard people like Tom Merritt has talked about it. He was really excited. Now he read the book, so he was
yeah,
really excited it was coming out. And I think I've seen him talk about it a little bit more after it came out as well. So I totally get it. I'm still not an Amazon Prime subscriber. I still haven't made that commitment to them. Although it's always tough around the holidays where it's like, maybe I should do the 2-month sign up for free or whatever so I can try it out and like get free shipping and all the shit that we're ordering from there.
yeah. Honestly, because I'm doing just the $8.99 movie thing, or just the Prime Video for $8.99 a month. I'm not doing the $100. You got the Prime for the whole year, sort
Do
of
you
thing.
know how much you add up to with your
No,
$8.99 a month though?
no, I know. That's where I'm probably with tax return is that'll be one of the things that I do is all right, I'm going to switch it over to the $100, get the free shipping, get the all the other little things that they throw in there as well. Um, but I mean, it's like there. I'm finding a lot of the original stuff on Netflix, on Amazon, very appealing. And that's partially the problem is like the Dana Carvey stand-up special, single white 60 or single white or what was it, white male 60, so appealing is it's a 1 hour stand-up special. I don't have to sit there and go, all right, I'm going to devote my whole weekend. I'm going to devote my evening.
Low commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of where I am. So this season, one of my favorite shows of last year came back, and I'm super excited for it. And yet I have yet to open up and start watching it, and that's the second season of Mr. Robot. Now, Mr. Robot
Yep.
is pretty heavy watching, and it's not like it was a detriment, but watching it the week to week that I did when it was originally on is not as compelling as getting to watch all the episodes at once. But I've had them sitting in my DVR since the second season finished. And there's certainly not a lot of people are out there spoiling it, but it's one of those things that I'm taking chances on every day by not going back and watching it. And I know I've seen some things like there was the 80s style horror video that they released that was some extra footage from it. And I saw that, and it didn't really give me clues about the season so much, but it's one of those things that, again, I'm getting exposed to things and I'm psyched for watching it. It's a commitment to 13 episodes or whatever it is for the season. And so that's always the big deal. But I that's probably going to be the next thing on my list with the free time is I'm going to be looking at shows like that.
Yeah, Mr. Robot is one of those shows I feel like you could get the little things that they throw up like they did with the horror movie that they made and still be completely lost. And it worked, pretty well. And I like, because I know this is one that's on my list as well. I might end up having to do the whole second season. Because I think I ended up at episode 6. I don't know. The last episode I remember is the one that they did in the style of a 90s sitcom. And that's all I'm going to say because that spoils nothing, except they did an episode in the style of a 90s sitcom.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think
Do you have one more?
the other one I'm thinking is what I'm doing now, or it's two of them that I'm doing now. The White Rabbit Project, which I mentioned last week, I'm watching more of the episodes of. So that's probably what I'm going to be watching throughout the week. I'm rewatching Newsroom, and then Mozart in the Jungle season 3 came out, and I've been watching that, and that's been enjoyable as well. Just because, like, I've watched the first 2 seasons, and just the stories that they're telling there is, it's very beautiful, very beautifully done. And I mean, you get Jason Schwartzman in there, which I love him on Blunt Talk, and it's sort of like his character, but let's focus him more on his character on Blunt Talk, but let's focus him more on classical music, which is just great. Blunt Talk is another one. I think I've only got like 1 episode to go. I've been watching them as they come out, but it's airs on Sunday night, so it gets lost in the Walking Dead shuffle. Zombie pun.
Yeah. One show I will not be catching up on is The Walking Dead. Fuck that noise. Fuck it hard.
Yeah.
But I'll go with your cheat. I'll go with your cheat of shows that haven't been like sitting there burning a hole in our DVRs, but are pretty new or brand new in some cases. One I think isn't even quite out yet, although it should be hitting soon, is the Christmas episode of Sense8 is coming out.
Yeah.
Probably, I think, this week. I'm very, very jazzed up for that. Sense8 was one of those things that just blew my mind with how good it was, and easily became one of my favorite programs at a time that it had things competing with it like Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Since that, it's like, where the hell did this show come from? It was just beautiful. It was stunning. The characters were incredibly well realized. I'm very, very excited for that. But the other thing that I'm excited for, and I don't even know why, because I know literally nothing about it, is a show that just premiered on Netflix this week called The OA. The OA. And nothing. I know really nothing. I can see certain people are in it, like Scott Wilson, who was on The Walking Dead back when it was watchable. And it looks like I could not begin to explain what the plot or anything is, but that's kind of how I came into Stranger Things. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that Netflix is going to blow my mind again in the way that Stranger Things did. Because Stranger Things, possibly my favorite show of the year. Although Fargo, second season, I think was this year. So it's got a competition. But if this thing can do like 3/4 of what Stranger Things did for me, I'm going to be very excited. And I think that that's exactly what I want. I want something that I can just sit and just blow through all the episodes in one pass and just, have my mind blown a little bit, or just lose myself to it for hours on end and tune the rest of the world out. And that's kind of the exciting part about having that little bit of vacation time, that little bit of time to yourself, where you can just close the shades and fill up on pizza rolls, I guess.
No, yeah, it's one of those shows that I've seen, and I was trying to figure out the Brit Marlin, like that name sounds so familiar, and I'm realizing she was on the show I mentioned a year or two ago, Babylon, over on Channel 4, that was done by Danny Boyle. That's really good. But this is one I saw that I'm like, that looks interesting. Not what I'm here to watch, though.
That's the thing. Is like, you have to choose your battles. I still have all of Atlanta on my DVR too, and that's another one I'd like to get into. And that is probably shorter because I think they're half-hour episodes. But again, conceptually, I don't really know what I'm in for with it. I just know that it's got Donald Glover, and I really like Donald Glover, so I'd like to give it a shot.
Yeah, Atlanta, I saw the first episode, and I don't know if I want to put it on my list, just because my list is going to quickly turn into this is everything that I'm going to try to binge in a week.
And you have to walk the line between feeling like you're watching something because you want to watch it, and you're watching something because you feel obligated to watch it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Is I've got those Mr. Robot episodes on my DVR, and I want to watch it because it's Mr. Robot. I don't want to watch it just because it'd be nice to clear off 13 hours from my DVR system.
Yeah. No, yeah, and that's cool. And I mean, I think the only other thing that's left to say with these is, there's a lot of shows. I mean, we say it all the time. There's just too much TV out there, too much good TV out there.
We're in a magical point of there is a lot of great content. There's a lot of shit content. And that's why we go back and forth. Now I'll be the one to argue stuff is shit, which maybe Gregor doesn't think is shit. And that's okay. It's all right that not everybody is going to agree on what's good and what's bad, but you get so many choices. You get to find what drives you. You get to find the stuff that you really love. And if the stuff you love is reruns of The Big Bang Theory or Two Broke Girls, that's okay. That's not going to be what I want to spend my time watching, but at least now you have the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty amazing, compared to when I was growing up and you just watched what was on. You just kind of sucked it up, and this is what's on TV right now. I think it's really incredible that I am a science fiction fan, for instance. I'm not, but I sort of am. And so I want to find science fiction stuff. And there is just a wealth of it. There is so many things. If you're a person who likes time travel, I feel like time travel, if I ever see another fucking time travel plot, I will burn myself to the fucking ground. But if you like that, there is so much shit with time travel. It's insane. You feel like you're in a fucking loop yourself because there's just like time travel show. But cool. Cool for you if that's your jam.
So are you going to be catching yourself on fire this Sunday when the Doctor Who Christmas special comes out?
I'm going to burn the connection to that channel because I'm probably not going to fucking watch it.
But no, I mean, so all this is being said as a great segue here to the ending of the show. And this is a call to action for you guys. What shows did we not mention that you think we need to be watching? This is us giving you homework to give us homework. And we have a couple ways you can do that. You can email us, mail@elsenerds.com, or you can leave us a voicemail by calling 805-328-3966. You can find all the subscription links are on our page at gncast.com/subscribe. And you can join us on our Facebook page under Galactic Network. And you can follow the show on Twitter at ElseNerds, the network at Galactic Netcasts. Our producers, Beatmaster80 and Mr_Fusion. You could follow me on Twitter at that Gregor. Corey, where can they find you?
You can go to don'taskcomics.com. That's where I help publish comics relating to and by Levi Krauss and friends, and sometimes me.
Nice. And the only thing that's left to be said is this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week.
Or else.
We won't.